الحمد لله رب العالمين والآكبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وذلك دين القيمة. آمنت بالله صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا
وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وسلم عليه. All praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, controller of this entire universe. May the choicest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon our Nabi, Nabiullah, Habibullah, Sarkar Madina, Ruh Hasina, Nabi Kareem, Ra'ufur Rahim, Rahmatan lil Alameen, Sayyid al-Mursaleen, Khatam al-Nabiyyin, Imam al-Anbiya, Ahmad Mujtaba, Muhammad al-Arabi, Muhammad Rasulullah, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. My respected elders and youngers, today I wish to talk about something in reference to the verse of the Quranic Kareem that are recited from Surah Bayyinah verse 5, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains the believers to, He ordains them to operate with mukhlisina lahuddin, with ikhlas in the deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders this to the believers and the ummah of Rasul Kareem sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Now I would like to say this with a great level of respect that I often speak about this topic, believe it or not, with Janab Maulana Sahib, and he knows how passionate I am about this subject. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, formulate ikhlas within you for the deen. And we know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the deen, He means in every aspect of our life. Why? Because deen is a way of life, right? And we know this, and ikhlas is sincerity. It's sincerity, the act of being sincere within a person. Now, with sincerity, we already know the opposite of it is insincere, lying or deception in nature, in your character, in the way that you walk. Now, we already know about this, that lying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran, La'natullah ala al-kazibeen. La'nat of Allah be upon the liars. Let me tell you something. In the elders, those people who had really respect for their parents, they really had respect for their parents. If ever their parents gave them la'nat, or they upset their parents, they were so scared they wouldn't leave the house until they had the bakshish from their parents, forgiveness from their parents. They, please forgive me, don't be upset me, angry me. If I go out today, I will have no barakah in my life. And then today we have people who don't speak to their parents. They do zid, they don't speak to their parents. This is the way people operate these days. Anyway, Allah saves us, but imagine having, and they say that he has the badwa of his mother, or that he has the badwa of his father. Imagine that. And we are saying here, Allah says, liars, know this, my lanat is upon you. Lie, or lying, this I often say this to people, it is such a sort of kryptonite that is self-destructive. You can lie to get yourself out of a situation. You might lie to get yourself out of 5 situations. But let me tell you something. When the la'nat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes upon you for lying, you will self-destruct in your life. You won't be able to hold a job. You won't be able to hold relationships. Your friends will fall out with you. Your family members will be upset with you. You won't get anywhere in life. You think you might take one step towards success and then you fall back down the ladder again. And this is the way lying works. It is self-destructive. It's one of the worst things that you can do to disable and cause trouble for yourself. Some people, they are white liars, as they refer to in the Islamic. White liars, and in their life they have no barakah. They get smacked from every angle, wherever they go, and they think maybe I have jadoo on me, maybe I have nazar on me, maybe this is problem, Peer Sahib could dua farmaya. This is self-destructive. You are causing the problem in yourself. You are killing your own rizq. You are killing your own barakah. Such a form of self-destruction lying is. I say this often, and I say this, that every single person should have the book of Imam Imam Yahya bin Nawawi in their home, which is Riyadh al-Salihin. Everybody should have this in their home. Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah, the great wali, the great alim al-deen of this ummah, rahimahullah ta'ala, who we accept, in his book is 2 volumes, and he takes loads of hadith from different chapters and he puts it into these two compendiums, or these 2 volumes of work. And it gives you a really good all-rounder. If you're not an alim and you don't go through the books of a hadith, at least study Riyadh al-Salihin. This is very important, especially for our children. Why? Because Imam Malik puts pretty much everything in there, what we need to know. Now let me tell you something. The first chapter that Imam Malik opens with in his book Riyadh al-Salihin is Bab al-Khulus, the chapter of Ikhlas, sincerity. Why? The ulama have spoken about this. Why did he start with Khulus? Why? Because Imam Malik was saying, when you wish to enter this deen, when you wish to learn about this deen, first develop khulus in your heart. First develop sincerity within you, then you will see the barakah Allah puts in your life. Then you will see the barakah Allah puts in your life. Now before I come back to this, I want to tell you about a narration. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala. Who was Abdullah ibn Umar? He was Sahabi Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And no average Sahabi Rasul, the son of Sayyidina Farooq Azam, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala. He was the son of Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala. Now let me tell you something. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, the second greatest man in the ummah of Rasulullah, Ba'dul Anbiya. After the prophets of Allah, the greatest, Afdalul Bashar Ba'dal Anbiya, bitahqiq, was Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, was the greatest Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. After him, according to the ulama, was Sayyidina Farooq Azam radiyallahu ta'ala. Now can you imagine which wali can compare with Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala? Now imagine, your father is Farooq Azam radiyallahu ta'ala. And these days, you have peers and alims and things like this, and their sons sit in their seats after they pass away. They become automatic peers. No minute, no zikr, no azkar, no ibadat, nothing. And they become automatic. They've taken their father's position. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala was Amirul Mu'mineen. But did he say, after me it will be my son Umar? After me it will be Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala? No, he didn't. But look at Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar. Look at the shan wa maqam he had. His father was Amirul Mu'mineen of this ummah. He was Amirul Mu'mineen of this ummah. Can you imagine if you could say that? There is Amirul Mu'mineen. Did he need to make any effort? He had all the respect. He was Sahabi Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's seen Rasulullah with his eyes. He's seen Rasulullah with his eyes sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was Sahabi Rasul. This man, he was the embodiment of ikhlas. He was a mukhlis person. He was a person of sincerity. This man was an alim and a faqih. He was alim, and he wasn't just any ordinary alim. He was one of the greatest alims of his time. The Sahaba Kareem radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, they would go to Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala for advice. They would go to him for advice. They would go to him for masli and masail of deen. He was from the fuqaha. He was a faqih of his time, and leading from amongst the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. And something, he was somebody who was ashikana diwana. One day, somebody said, I seen Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala. And he had his riding animal with him, and he's going around in circles, round and round, just in the middle of in the desert, round and round, round and round. Somebody said to him, Ya Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, what are you doing? Why are you going around and round like this? He said, I seen Rasulullah circulate this area. I seen Rasulullah sallallahu circulate this area in these very steps, and this is why I'm circulating. Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, he was somebody who was known for these things. His ilm was of such a high caliber that when people would go to Hajj, they would take Abdullah bin Umar with him. Why? Why would they take Abdullah? Because he knew the exact steps where Sayyidina Rasulullah had taken when he went to Hajj. He studied this in his life. He knew exactly where the Prophet had tied his animal when he was on the journey to Hajj. That's why people, when they went to Hajj, they went with Abdullah ibn Umar. This was the great knowledge, and his ilm of Hajj, of Babul Hajj, Kitabul Hajj, of fiqh was amazing, was impeccable of his time. and people would read. And not only that, he was a great wali of his time. He was from the Ibadullah. He was from the great worshippers and the pious people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he was no average personality. He was somebody who took the position of his father. He had merit behind him. He had work behind him, a lifetime of work. And he was known as Muttabi' Sunnah. Somebody who vigilantly followed the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah. Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he says one day, I was in the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwarah. I was there and I was with some people. I went there for a particular task. When we reached a certain area, we put down our mat and we stopped so we could eat, so we can refresh a little bit. He said, at this time, we seen a shepherd, a man who was a shepherd, and he was coming with a flock of sheep and animals. And he says to the shepherd, he invited him, he said salam, so he said wa alaikum salam. He said, why don't you come and join us to eat? Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, why don't you come and join us to eat? And the man said to him, he said, no, because I'm fasting. It was scorching hot in the desert at that time. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, he was fasting today in the scorching hot heat. And you know what the man's response was? He was just a farmer, by the way, you must remember, a shepherd. And what he says to Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, I wish to make the most of these days that Allah has given me in fasting. In fasting. This is what he said. So Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, when he seen this, he was surprised and seeing this response. So he began to test him. He wanted to test him. And he said to him, this flock of animals that you have, who do they belong to? And he said, they belong to my Maulana, to my master. They belong to my master. So he said to him, he said, listen, give me one of your animals, I will buy it, and we will sacrifice it, and we will use this for your iftar meal. I will pay it, and we will do your iftar here today. And you know what the man said to Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar? He said, I can't do that. I don't have permission. This belongs to my master. Look at the taqwa in this person. He said, this belongs to my master. I haven't asked his permission. I can't do this. Abdullah ibn Umar, because he was testing him, he said to him, he goes, what will your master know? I'll pay you for the animal. What will he know? And you know what he did? He turned around and he pointed to the sky. He said, but my Rabb will know. My Rabb knows. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar was so impressed with this man, this poor shepherd. He was so impressed. He sent one of his men. He said, go to his master, find his master, pay his rakam and his price and have him free, and pay for this entire flock of animals and award it to him as a gift. Award it to him as a gift. Look at the taqwa in this man. He was fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what you call muttaqi. And a person of khalus. That, you know, when we do a sin, we look left and right, see no one's watching, take it. Or no one's watching, let's steal this. Right? You know, today your phone's gone missing. You know, and we hope that it's just lost. But, you know, these days, you know, you check left and right before you take. But when people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they know, even if they're on their own in their bedroom, they know Allah is watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. So they will always be in a praise-gar, and they will always be mindful of the things that they do and what they commit. Now anyway, let me tell you what I wanted to say. And that was that, you know, there was a man. He was, this is according to the Allama, there was a man, he was a blacksmith. He was a very famous blacksmith. Why would a blacksmith be famous? Because this man was renowned for whenever he touched hot, burning iron, because he was a blacksmith, that was his job, he would never get burned. He would never get burned. This man, somebody asked him his story. He said, Hazrat, how does the fire not burn you? We don't understand. He said, let me tell you my story. He said, there was a woman that I loved passionately. I loved her so much. And I had tried every single thing to get her company. I had spoken to her, I had offered her money, I did everything. She said to me, no. And she stayed away from me. He said, but I loved her. He says, one day I found out that her husband passed away. When I found out, I went with great happiness and I asked her to marry me. And she said, I can't marry you because I have children and I'm embarrassed to marry again. I'm embarrassed. So he left her. Sometime later, that lady came to him, to the blacksmith, and she asked him for a loan. Times were harsh, it was a famine. So she asked him for a loan, she asked him for some money. And he's seen this as his opportunity. He said to her, He said, I will give you what you want, but in return for one thing. He said, you will fulfill my desires. What I need from you, you will fulfill from your side. She was majboor. She was without any other sahara. So she said, look, she became very, very majboor. And she said, look, I will do what you're asking. They set a date and time, and when she came, she was shaking frantically. It's written, she was shaking frantically. And when he seen her, he asked her, he said, why are you shaking like this? Why are you shaking frantically? She said, do you not fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? She said, if I disgrace myself here in front of you, how will I face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will I face him after this act? This man, in his heart, entered the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he told her, take the money and go. And as she was leaving, she made one dua for him. She said, may Allah save you from the fire. May Allah save you from the fire. He said, since that day, any fire that I touch, it doesn't burn.
Nara takbir, Nara risalat, Nara risalat, Nara risalat, Nara tahqiq, Nara hadari, ulama ahl sunnah.
And this man, he said that I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that like the fire of this world can't touch me, I pray that the fire of Jahannam won't be able to touch me. And you know, it's the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This comes in Sahib Bukhari. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, anybody who guards his private parts, I will guarantee for him Jannah. I will guarantee anyone who guards his private part from adultery, I will promise him Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ takes personal responsibility for this. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, at this day and age, what are we seeing? You know, when I was a kid growing up, there was a lot more respect. You never used to hear about, you know, these haram relationships. Never used to hear it. Maybe one person you used to hear, you know, this person, you know, he has a girlfriend or something like that. You used to be so surprised. Wow, you know, he's from a good family. How dare he do something like this? But now, this has become common practice. This is common practice. You know, some of our teachers used to tell us, they say, listen, there's a halal way and a haram way of doing everything, right? If you want company of a female and you have those desires in your life, get married. Allah's put marriage, the institution of marriage in place for you. You know, the scholars say, they say if there's two puddles on the floor, one is a puddle of water and one is a puddle of urine, you can see your reflection in both of them. You can see your reflection in both of them, but the difference is one is pure, is tahir, and one is impure. So and this is why the ulama say that there's a legal way of doing things, so do and take that legal way. I know these days people are making it, even parents are making it difficult these days. You know, unless he doesn't have a degree and £50,000 in his bank and a house in your name and you know at least a Mercedes Benz, we're not going to consider him. Not knowing when the husband and wife and they get married, that rizq changes, because the wife brings the rizq, she comes with her own qismat, and the children, they come with their own qismat, they come with their own taqdeer and fate, and everything changes. This is why you will see that when somebody is about to have a child, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless them with new forms of rizq. And the reason is because that child is bringing his own rizq, or her own rizq. So Allah provides for all. We should never think in these ways, but Allah gives us the ability in this respect. I mentioned to you about Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, and in this book, the Bab al-Ikhlas, in here he brings a hadith. And the first time I came across this hadith, I was absolutely taken aback. What are we learning from this man who was the blacksmith? He had khulus in him on that day. Because of that, Allah showed him a miracle in his hand. He was a normal man. He wasn't a Sahabi or Rasul. He wasn't a Prophet of Allah. But he was a normal man, and we are seeing miracles at his hands because of his khulus and because of his ikhlas on that day and his fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me tell you this hadith. Imam Nawawi, he brings this in Riyadh al-Salihin. Nobody in the world denies Riyadh al-Salihin. So you can quote this. And you know who brings it in this hadith is muttafaqan alayhi, Bukhari and Muslim. It comes in Bukhari Sharif and Muslim Sharif. For anyone who wants a reference, who's the Rawi of this hadith? Who's the narrator of this hadith? Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu. I was telling you about Hazrat. He's also the narrator of this hadith. What does he say? He said, Apne waqt mein Rasul alayhi salatu wa salam, he was telling the Sahaba kareem radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, before us, let me tell you about a story of three men. Before us, there were three men. And these three men, they were traveling very far one day. They were on journey, traveling. And they seen a cave where they wanted to seek rest. So they entered the cave and they went inside and they sought rest in that cave. As they were in that cave, it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from that mountain, a big rock, a stone fell and it blocked the entrance of the cave. Blocked the entrance of the cave. They were trapped in there, they had no help, and it was an extremely heavy stone. 3 of them couldn't even move it. No chance. They knew it was a matter of time before they died. They knew in there it was a matter of time before they died. So amongst them, they did mashwara, they said, what should we do? And they said, pray on the wasila of some good amal that you did that Allah gets us out of this tribulation. Pray on the wasila, pray based on one of some amal that you did in your life. So one of the men comes forward and he said, oh Allah, he makes dua. He said, oh Allah, he said, once I was in love with a woman. This is Bukhari Muslim, Hazrat telling this hadith. There is a woman that I was in love with. I loved her so much. And it was a similar story as I mentioned about the blacksmith, that when he acquired her and brought her to his company, she said to him, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She said to him, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of this fear he developed in his heart, he left her, he gave her the money because he promised her 120 dinar in the hadith. Because it's similar to what I told you, I won't go into the full detail. So he gave her the 120 dinar, he let her free. And he said, Ya Allah, Ya Rabbul Alameen. He said, if you've accepted this act that I did on that day for your sake, if you're razi with it, oh Allah, if you're happy with this, please help us in this mystery. And the stone, according to the ulama, the Prophet said, the stone moved a little bit. The stone moved a little bit. Is this not a miracle? Is this not a miracle? 3 men can't move this stone, but the stone moves a little bit on its own. And this is wasila, a normal man he's making on behalf of a good deed that he did in his life. The second man, he comes forward. But it still wasn't enough for them to get out. Second man comes forward. This man, he loved his parents so much. In his life, he used to come home every day with milk. After he milked the animal, he would come home with the milk. And he would give to his parents first, then he would give to his children, his wife and his slaves. But first he would give to his parents. One day he was grazing late and he became very late. And he came and he waited outside his parents' door. And he said that they were sleeping. He realized that they had already fallen asleep. So he waited and he waited and he waited. Imagine this. Wallahi, the Prophet ﷺ is saying this, that those children were crying at his feet. They wanted the milk, they were hungry all day, they were crying at his feet. But he said, I dislike to wake up my parents and disturb them when they were sleeping. The ulama say he waited till dawn. He waited till dawn time. When dawn came, then he presented the milk to his parents. But he didn't give to his children first. This was out of love and respect and honor and adab for his parents. And he made dua on this day, knowing that probably they were going to die in here. And he said, oh Allah, if you are razi with this action, if you know that I did this for your sake to please you, I watch my children suffering, oh Allah, then move the stone. And the ulama say, the Prophet confirms this in the hadith, that the stone moved a little bit. The stone moved a little bit. Now imagine this, each scenario, imagine in your life if you were presented in the same scenario. Would you wait all night for your parents? If you were in front of a beautiful woman that you desired and you were frantically in love with, would you be able to control yourself if she was there before you? And she was agreeing to your demands in that respect? The third, and everyone will be able to relate to this, this is probably one of the hardest things in this day and age. There was one man, he hired many people to work for him. He was a businessman. He hired many people to work for him. Anyway, when the work had finished, he paid all the people. He paid all the people that worked for him, apart from one man. He left. So he couldn't pay him his fees for the work that he did. Anyway, so he took his fees and he invested it into a business for him. He invested it into a business. One day that man came back and he said to him, he goes, Master, I've come after much time. You owe me some money from the work that I did. Please pay me my dues. So you know what he said to him? He said, you see this land here in front of you? You see all the cattle on there? The camels, the goats, the sheep, all the cattle, everything you see, it's all yours. And you know the way of the people in the hadith and the way of the Arabs at the time. You know when they thought somebody was mocking them, You know, these days we say, are you taking the mick out of me? And those days they used to say, are you mocking me? Are you mocking me? That's what they used to say. When they felt offense like this, he said, I'm not mocking you. The money you gave me, I invested it. This is the product of it today. And he said that he took every single piece of what had been invested and he took it all entirely. And he prayed that day. He said, oh Allah, if this action was accepted to you, please save us and move this stone. They say, Allama say, the Prophet confirms this. This is Bukhari and Muslim. That stone moved by miracle and the men escaped and they walked free that day from the cave. What are we seeing here? We're seeing normal men embodied in khulus, in sincerity, in truthfulness, in righteousness. They were scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in their lives, miracles happened before them. Miracles. These are not prophets that I'm not telling you about. These are not the awliya that I'm telling you about. These are normal people who wore the colors of khulus. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ says, don't lie, be truthful, have truthful characteristics within you. These things are so important in this day and age. And wallahi, even the ulama, they often stress this. They often stress this. They say, wear the colors of khulus and then see the barakah in your lives. Then see the barakah in your lives. Because really, stop, think about this. Next time you speak, don't lie. Seriously, don't think, that was a good speech or that was a good hadith. Implement it in your lives. Implement it in your lives. And wallahi, if you've got a hard time going right now for yourself, or if you're in difficulty, just don't lie. Don't lie. Sometimes we tell so many small lies we don't even realize. But try and monitor your day. If someone asks you, where have you been? Don't say the truth. Why are you late? Tell the truth. Don't, think to yourself, your parents might be angry. Or, where was you? I sat with my friends too long. Well, I told you to leave at 8 o'clock. Look at it, it's 9:30 now, they could say. But the thing is, remember this, would you rather tolerate some narazgi of your parents but tell the truth, or would you rather receive the la'nat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's such a serious issue. We must change our ways. We must change and reform this, and then you will see the barakah in your lives. Time does not permit. I wish to extend on these things, and there's so much more to talk about. Definitely by the other salihin, and go through it with your children. And one thing we must teach them before anything is to have khulus in their lives. Then you will see what shining stars they are, and they become within the ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our coming, and may Allah elevate Master Ghulam Rasul Sahib and Qibla Pri Sahib, Maulana Babar and Fani Sahib and all the rest of you. And may Allah enter Muzid Barakah in our lives and make us people who are mukhlis, who are people and similar traits to those of the Salihun.